Hey friends, welcome to Produce is People, the podcast with Nate Montgomery, the produce champion. I hope you enjoy the show. Make sure that you listen to it, make sure you share it, and make sure that you tell us what you think about it. Hey friends, Nate Montgomery, the produce champion. Welcome to this episode of Produce is People. And we're out on safari. We're finding transportation individuals out in their natural habitat. And we have Tony Serrano here with Yakima Valley Transportation. And thanks for being on the show with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We know each other for what, 7 years now?
Yep.
And in several different iterations. But you've had this company, well, this is your anniversary month, right?
Coming up, it'll be 6 years in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, that's not an easy task.
It's been a ride.
It's been a ride, and we're in transportation, folks.
Yeah.
So before we get into anything, do you have a funny story about transportation that you could share with us?
When I was first introduced to it, I was in a job I didn't like at the time. And so I was looking for some honest work, something that would be something I could be proud of and do something that would be fun. And a good friend of mine also works in the industry, said, look into this. It's the most honest job I've done. And I got into it, and I felt kind of thrown off by how the industry works, and I felt somewhat of like a used car salesman as it started. And I readdressed him and said, hey, I thought this was the most honest job you've done. And he said, are you doing an honest job? And it really shook my core of how I work. And I do enjoy it. I thought that was a real eye-opening moment for me in this industry.
Yeah, that's great. That reminds me of the Aesop's fable, where the guys are walking, and there's a guy walking and sees an old man and says, hey, what kind of people are in the town ahead? And I said, well, what kind of people are from the town you came from? And he says, oh, they're just wonderful, joyous people and peaceful. And he says, well, that's the kind of people you'll find there. The next guy comes and he says, hey, what kind of people are in the town? And, oh, they're all liars and cheats. And he says, that's the kind of people you'll find there. And it's about you, right? And so what you bring into it, that's a great story. I love that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
So transportation has always been a challenge because you really have to think on your feet quick, right?
Yeah.
But it just seems like lately there's just, emails and phone calls, there's a lot of people getting in the transportation gig. So how does one decide who to work with?
I think vetting who you're working with, building some sort of relationship is always great. But if you're getting into it just to start, there's a lot of different avenues as far as looking up and seeing how reputable a company is, how long they've been in business, and the volume of business. So you kind of look that up through food books or online customer ratings. So you can kind of look that way. Google is another great place.
It's a great tool.
It's a great tool. But yeah, a lot of it's word of mouth. It's a huge industry with a small group. It feels small. It's got a small town vibe. And so for me, relationships has been the biggest thing in building, bringing in business.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So I struggle with, I'll have people call me and, we're in sales, I've been in sales for 30 years. And so you want to give somebody a chance. At the other hand, you got people, 30, 40, 50 people a day, all of a sudden it's like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good key, is just asking around, talking to people who work with me, how do you like what they're doing? There's the aspect of cost. And there's the adage, you get what you pay for. And so how do you identify when somebody comes to you and says, well, you're too expensive? How do you determine whether or not it's worth it to negotiate, or to just say, I'm not the guy for you?
I think that a lot of that comes with experience and having your hands in the industry, as far as like going through a season changes. Part of the year I'll have way too many loads for the amount of trucks we have, and then part of the season I have too many trucks for the amount of loads we have. And so you'll see the fluctuation of calls. One season the customer's calling, and one season the truck's calling, so you get those mid flows.
In real estate, they call it buyer's market, seller's market, right?
Yes.
So yeah,
we call it a flip flop. So we'll notice when the flip flop happens. But I guess I forgot your initial question
No,
about it, but
that's great. So one of the things that I like to talk about is the hands of produce, is what I say. So you don't just do produce, right? You do other stuff.
yes,
But I'm kind of more narrow focus of produce, but you do other stuff that's not.
shipping.
Yeah,
For me, my bread and butter is produce, clean.
Because you're in Washington.
We're a Washington family. We're born and raised right here, and so we do a lot of produce. But that doesn't hold us back. When I started this company, we were only produce, and I started branching a little bit more, and we've gone to fertilizers, fireworks, lumber, concrete materials,
A little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything. So everything that we're wearing today, everything we eat has been in a truck.
At some point,
Yeah.
So I get, and that's the point. That this idea of the hands of produce, specifically when a consumer, when my wife, when our kids are going to the store and they're buying pizzas or they're buying apples or bananas or whatever. Every time that you're buying one of those things, you're selecting one of those things, you go, you pay your money. A piece of that is going to transportation. And there's an impact, a huge impact that transportation has in the whole process. Because of the COVID, everybody talks about supply chain, and that's a major component of supply chain. But just breaking it down to the very, very simple, when my wife is picking up that apple, what should she know about transportation when she's thinking about which apple she's buying and the apples that she's buying?
Well, if you're conscious, I guess, of the freshness of the fruit, that label will tell you where it came from, how far it was shipped to get here. Because as you know, there's times in season where we'll have Michigan apples and Washington apples in our same store.
Yep.
And or New York, for that. So looking at the label and knowing the transportation is a big part of it. You can see where you're investing your money is where you're buying your food from, and so. As far as the transportation goes, I would say a lot of things need to be fresh and sent in. We have all the varieties of every fruit at all seasons now
Available
somewhere. Yeah. And so it's really impressive to kind of see where things are coming from. But as far as knowing about the transportation, I would just say that quality is a big thing. That can be something that's ruined during transportation. But you got freshness and where it came from, and then you kind of realize how many hands touch that to get it to the store.
Yeah, and so so your apple costs you $1.99 or whatever. Okay. But of that $1.99, yeah, some of it's going to the grower, some of it's going to the picker, the packer, the sales desk, the transportation, the driver. I mean, there's a lot of families that are being affected by each of one of those little individual items, and I think to recognize our part in the big structure, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest reasons I've enjoyed working in this industry is because you are part of a chain.
Yeah.
At no point do I feel like I owe or need you to work for me.
Right.
We all need each other, and that's some of the best businesses I have where it's worked the best. It's been on that basis.
I want to remind you folks, if you're hearing some other sounds, we are, like I said, on Safari. We're actually in a live transportation zoo, so to speak. The office is working. We're not interrupting them. They're doing what they got to do. I really appreciate you taking the time, Tony, to talk to us. What is one thing that gets you going? I mean, you're in management, you're in sales, you're in all kinds of different aspects of the different hats that you wear. What is one of the things that you say every day? This is what gets me out of bed. This is what I enjoy.
I think the biggest thing that keeps me going is there's a lot of people dependent on you. Once you accept the job and start building this stuff, there's a lot of people that depend on me at this point. It's not just about me. It's not just about my household and my kids. I currently have 9 employees with X amount of kids and grandkids, and the amount of trucks, drivers, and their families, and there's a lot of depending on all of this going. So when I first got into it, I mean, everyone wants to work for money. Right. That was my biggest goal: is get some money. Yeah. And shooting for that never really got me anywhere. And then once I we got to the point where we got the ball working and we kind of oiled what we were doing and had this machine working well. It really became a whole process and keeping it all going, and that in turn has been paid back tenfold.
In spades.
Yeah, way more than ever trying to just go after the money at the end of the day. So,
well, listen, we could probably talk for hours about industry things, but I just really appreciate you taking the time chatting with us. I hope if you're a consumer out there, you're thinking next time you're making a purchase, hey, this purchase, it's not just impacting my family, it's impacting this chain of families, and who knows how many of those are. But make sure that you're considering that, and thank you for making that purchase. If you're a retailer or something like that, keep in mind, cheaper is not always better, and sometimes there's a value there for the people that are involved in this process. And anyway, otherwise, I want to ask you to have a great day. Remind you to share. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course on YouTube. We've got this podcast, Produce is People. And if you will like it and share it, we'd appreciate it. As I always say in social media, as in produce, if you like it, share it. Have a great day. Thank you.
So that's the show, folks. Make sure that you like it, make sure that you share it, and follow us on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. We're in all the socials, even on YouTube. Make sure you follow us, share it, and like it.